Alrighty, we're up. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the recap. I am Michael D'Angelo, joined as always by my partner in crime, Mr. Big D, Daryl Ortiz.
Going on.
Yeah, it is a fantastic Saturday, another fantastic week of wrestling on Raw and Smackdown, and we're here to recap it for all of you at home, so you don't have to sit through 5 hours of wrestling. So you're welcome, everybody.
Yes, we're just doing God's work here.
We are, for all you, we're busy too, okay? But you know what? We make those sacrifices every day for y'all. And yeah, we're looking back on, we'll start with Raw on December the 11th. I'll put the official date out there in case anyone's wondering. Big D, what happened on Raw this week?
A whole lot of nothing, but we'll talk about it.
That's putting it very generously.
So we kicked off with a recap of all of Drew's doings, and the truth will set you free, all that good stuff. That is now apparently his new catchphrase. So curious to see how that goes. But then, of course, without further ado, it was Drew and Jay taking over for the first match of the night. They each had promos on what they wanted to say. Nothing different from the Sami Zayn Drew match that we had a week prior. It was almost probably like a copy and paste scenario here, because Drew was, again, the massively aggressive, overbearing heel, which I like. I like him as a heel better than a face personally, but then again, I just prefer heels in general. But again, very aggressive. Just giving it to Jay and taking him down. Each week, it seems like he's getting more aggressive and more meaner, and just more. Maybe it's just like maybe the foreshadowing of like his frustration just reaching that boiling point until he finally gets to whoever, gets to Seth Rollins and gets what he wants. So there was a few, close near falls. Of course, Drew being the heel takes off the turnbuckle thing and the pad to the turnbuckle with a ref. All of a sudden is concerned about it, so goes to tie it up, gets him with it looked like an eye rake, but more like he was jamming his thumb in Jay's eye, which looked very painful, only to hit the Claymore for the victory. So again, I'm liking this more aggressive Drew McIntyre. I feel bad for Jay, because now this is the second big match he's lost on his own. He even hit the spear on this one too. He's hit everyone with almost the kitchen sink, and like last week I was saying, I feel like they're trying to send the message that he can't win on his own, which is dumb, because it's the whole point of him being main event Jey Uso is that he can win on his own, right? And here they're just like totally undoing it, which is odd to me. But we'll get into SmackDown and why I think this is kind of with
we'll get to that later too. And you know what? I felt exactly the same way about this match, because it's right down to when I watched it, I was like, last week, the opening half an hour match with Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre was my least favorite part of Raw. And this week was like the copy paste of my least favorite part of Raw last week, because it was the exact same thing. It was 30 minutes. It was 2 commercial breaks at roughly the same intervals, because they loved going to break a couple of times during matches. It was the same formula, where it was Drew's having a hard time putting away somebody who shouldn't be a threat to him, because let's face it, Sami Zayn and Jay should not be a threat to Drew McIntyre. No. But they're very competitive, back and forth, near falls. And in both matches, Michael Cole said, "Oh, man, if McIntyre had been pinned there, he would have been livid." And they said it in both matches. Because I remember when he said it last week against Sami Zayn, he said it again this week. And it's like, we get it. He's going to be real mad. But it's like, oh, he's beside himself. And then both matches, he had to... I won't say cheat. I mean, the first one technically didn't cheat against Sami Zayn. He just exploited an injury. But he had to use dirty tactics to win both of them. Right. And he did thumb the eye to Jey Uso. So I like Drew McIntyre as a heel. Definitely. I think he's way better as a heel. For me, though, you're making him look like he can't win. You're making him look weak against these guys who he should be crushing. He should be beating these guys. Is he really going to be a threat to a main eventer? Is he really going to be a threat to Seth Rollins if he can't put away Sami Zayn without cheating? It's tough, and it's like, just make him. I like hey, he's not showing mercy. Hey, he's like gonna go to the extremes and this and that, but don't make him look like he can't win unless he does that. And that's where I'm like, oh, you're making him look like he can't put anybody away in a fair fight. So again, least favorite part of the show for me.
Yeah, I mean, it like I said, it was a decent first match. A good. I guess they're two good competitors.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was well wrestled. Yeah.
Right, of course. But as far as like their individual storylines go, I don't feel like, I mean, obviously Drew benefited from it. Excuse me. Drew benefited from it, but to what extent, right? Like now it's kind of making him look like
Yeah.
he's struggling a little bit. And I don't know if they're going to play it off as like it's because of his he's so aggressive or he's so outraged that he's, slipping. So, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, he's losing his focus or something. Yeah. I mean, we'll see how it continues to play, but please, WWE, don't just do the same thing next week.
Yes, please.
Please don't.
No copy paste, please. Like, no more. So after that, we had women's match, Rhea, where she was livid and fuming, talking about she's going to show Maxine Dupree who she really is. But again, let's be real. It's Rhea Ripley against Renee Dupree, a woman that wasn't even considered a wrestler on the roster until Chad Gable took her under her wing. That's the way they portrayed her. I know she's wrestled before and all that. I know she has her stuff, right? But
I think he said that Michael Cole said this is only her 6th match. Like he made it a point to be like she doesn't have any experience. Yeah.
So surprise, Rhea squashed the hell out of her. Hits a very sloppy riptide, I feel, and I don't know if that was Rhea or I feel it was more Renee's. Maxine Dupree's
or Maxine.
Maxine's inexperience, because that it looked very sloppily and done. And I mean, again, with sloppy finishers, you can always risk injury, and that's always scary. So hopefully they clean that up. But so of course she hits the riptide, then she hits that cloverleaf submission. I forget what she calls it now, but I know it as a Texas cloverleaf. Good old Dean Malenko. And again, decent, decent way to kind of just bring up her next opponent, which was always meant to be Ivy. It looked like, because Ivy is the stronger of the two, between her and Maxine Dupree, right? So Ivy obviously putting herself in the corner. I kind of knew that she was going to do that. Sure enough, steps into the ring. They get that stare down, pretty much implying that's going to be Rhea's next challenge. And I feel that may be a better match. I mean, time will tell, but that's kind of what I'm so. At. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny with this one, though, because I had the same feeling of the whole thing was sloppy. The whole thing was sloppy and bizarre. I felt like it should have been a straight up squash, but it started off with like Maxine kind of getting one over on Rhea, but it looked like just by accident. She's stumbling around, and then she's like ducking under, and then she hits it was almost like she was sandbagging a power bomb. When I was like, is she sandbagging her? And then she tried to give her a power bomb, and then this very sloppy Hurricane Rana that just kind of fell to the ground. And then when she fell to the ground, Michael Cole's like, well, that was unorthodox, but it worked. I'm like, well, it wasn't unorthodox. She tried a Hurricane Rana, and she just kind of fell. And
well,
then
as a commentator, you got to clean that up
out
for them.
Well, I mean, you got as fellow commentators, we know you got to try to make it look good. But I think that was when she hit the riptide. I saw the same thing where I was like, oh, she kind of, and I thought that was more, again, Maxine kind of sandbagging her a little bit. And then she kind of awkwardly dropped her with the riptide, and it looked bad. And I think that was more Maxine Dupree not selling very well. And it didn't look good. It didn't look like somebody getting crushed because they were inexperienced. It looked like somebody who actually didn't know how to wrestle. It looked very strange. Right. And then when Ivy gets out there to like do the face off, Ivy always looks afraid. Like, I don't know if it's just the expression she's making, but she's always
think it's her face.
Like, she doesn't look like she's standing up to her and she's like, hey, she's like, like she doesn't want to be there. Like they forced me to come out here. I don't really want nothing, Rhea.
She's like, hey,
that's how she looks. And I'm like, I wish she would look like, hey, she's standing up to her and she's not afraid. She looks terrified every time. So I'm like, just make a different face. But so that whole thing was, I mean, it was pretty short, just odd. Prior to that, we saw like 2 video packages and a backstage promo. So I was like, there's a lot of stuff just a lot of filler. And then you had this weird kind of match, and then back into video packages.
It did, back into video packages, because then what came next was CM Punk's decision, which I thought was very early on in the match. However, after they did it, I understood why. And I'll explain that here in a sec. So, of course, CM Punk makes his decision. He comes out. He's in Cleveland. And he talks about how 10 years ago, almost to the day, that's where he lost his title. It was stripped from him because he couldn't no longer compete. And, parading to the fans. And, I knew my mind was made up the minute I saw, Cleveland on the schedule, pretty much already leading into it that he's signing with Raw. He apologized for leaving, does this contract signing, and thankfully, thankfully, Seth Rollins comes out to confront him. And I really did like Seth's promo. I could have done without a rebuttal from CM Punk, to be honest with you, because I feel like he said a whole lot of nothing again. But Seth coming out, some of the key phrases I highlighted here were, he says, I built, this is my home. Don't you dare call this place home, your home. Like really making it personal, and then saying like, oh, I said this clear, make it abundantly clear, like with all the fibers of my being, like I hate you. Like he said, it was such like he hated him, and Punk's just sitting there looking at him.
There's real conviction there,
right, and like Punk's looking at him like, oh crap, and then so he gets a mic, and I'm like, oh god, why are you getting a mic, dude? Like they already finished, like you're done.
He's like, are you finished?
Yeah. He's like,
just let it go, man.
He's like, that's the first pass and only pass you're gonna get without me doing something. I'm like, look, Punk, let's be honest. Seth can wrestle circles around you easily. He's clearly he's the much more talented. Seth, I doubted him for a while, but his charisma, and not just that, his in-ring performances are amazing. So I'm like, no, you're not going to stand toe to toe with Seth. You're not going to be, oh yeah, I can do just as good as you, because you can't. We saw you in AEW. You can't. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be a very protected match. And speaking of protected matches, he says, I'm entering the Royal Rumble. Let's make it official, Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce trying his best to look so cool, but it wasn't working. Yeah. So, enters the Rumble and says, when I win, I might come after you. Well, duh, you're going to come after him because you're Raw exclusive now, dude. You can't say the might stuff.
Yeah.
You're Raw exclusive now, whether you like it or not. So,
well, and when he said all that, I was like, Daryl was right about that.
Told you.
He's shelved until the Rumble. So I was like, well, you heard it here first. Big D called
Even
it.
what he said.
It was,
I'll see you at the Rumble.
They are shelving him toward the Rumble. See you at the Rumble, man. And it was like, yeah, because you're just going to do promos up until the Rumble. Mm-hmm. And him declaring on Raw obviously was like the biggest telegraph. Like we knew. It's like there was no suspense there. Obviously he was going to be Raw exclusive. Declares for the Rumble. One thing I will say though, I felt, and this is just my opinion on it, like I thought Seth's promo was good, but as much as I hate CM Punk, let me give him a little bit of credit here. I think his promos sound more natural. They sound they sound less like a pro wrestler saying them. Because Seth does like the pro wrestling promo. Yeah, CM Punk sounds like a guy honestly talking. So in some ways I kind of liked his a little bit better. So I was like, oh, his sound more sincere. I don't like the subject matter because I don't think he's sincere about, hey, everybody, I love you guys. Remember, fans, I did this for you guys. I love you guys. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like this kinder, gentler CM Punk. And I'm almost hoping this is like a bait and switch thing where he's going to turn heel and be like, you guys really thought I liked you. I was just here for the money. I would appreciate that more because it's so out of character because, he doesn't care about the fans. No, so it just doesn't seem genuine. So I hope they change that. But
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I mean, the thing is, at the end of the, Punk is a good speaker on the mic. I mean, it's, it's not apples to apples here because Seth, he does cut a good promo, but you're right. It's very gimmicky. It's very pro wrestler like. It's not free flowing and natural because CM Punk does specialize in that. So we'll give him that, I guess, right?
Well, let me ask you something too about this. So CM Punk obviously is declared for the Rumble. Mm-hmm. He is not going to wrestle until the Rumble, obviously. Mm-hmm. How much better would it have been for him to be a surprise entrant at the Rumble? Like, when I was thinking about that, when I saw, it's like, if you're just going to have him showing up and cutting promos all the time, can you imagine if he had been a surprise entrant at the Royal Rumble? That place would have gone bananas. Probably more so than when Edge was a surprise entrant. Yeah. I feel like if you're just going to have him hang out, like, that's a lost opportunity. You could have had this incredible, like, the greatest return of the Royal Rumble at all time, like, completely out of left field, hell froze over. You could have done all of that and kept the suspense for the Royal Rumble versus what you're just going to have him go. Before it was go from show to show and cut promos. And now what is he going to do? Show up on Raw, like, every week to just talk on the mic and make fun of Seth Rollins? Like, I don't know what you do with him for the next month.
I agree. And you know what, to be honest, I was actually looking back here at my notes here, but looking back at my notes, yeah, I remember which day it was that I wrote it down, but I didn't say anything. I do feel that it would have been a better pop at the Rumble. I mean, you're looking for a surprise entry, and that probably would have been a bigger pop than what he got in Chicago, to be honest. And I know some people aren't going to like that. I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but he would have gotten a much bigger pop at the Rumble, and he would have been saved from having to cut promos and show up to Raw every single week and pretty much say nothing but how he's going to get into the Rumble and win. So, I mean, it's a bummer.
Well, and I feel like he'll burn out a little. Like the crowd reactions aren't as loud every week, and I'm like, is he burning through his goodwill at this point because he's not wrestling?
Yeah, he's not wrestling, so it's not going to help. I think that the better option would have been to save him for the Rumble, but what do I know? I'm not a WWE exec, right?
Well, it's done is done.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of wrestling, I feel my opinion, and it could just be completely biased here, I felt this was one of the better matches of the night, probably up there with one of the top ones, which was Bronson Reed and Ivar. This was actually a really good back and forth, big man, just old school big man brawl. But the added benefit is that both men are extremely strong and freakishly agile for being as big as they are, which is awesome. You got two men that can both do the same thing essentially, except I feel, Ivar's more rugged in his move sets, where Bronson Reed's a lot more finessed, and a lot more cleaner in his work, and it showed. Both men went at it. A lot of big moves, a lot of big hits, a lot. I think one of them was the running where he threw himself up. It was the
he did like another running cannonball or what?
The crossbody. That was the crossbody. Yeah, that you could hear the echo, the meat just slapping together. It was crazy. But yeah, that was awesome. And of course, Bronson hits that superplex, which is a big superplex to hit off that top rope for the victory. Just gets his arm over, played it very well. I think it was really good. I don't think this is over. I think it'll probably continue again, but I feel like hopefully it goes up to like the Rumble and maybe being like a Falls Count Anywhere or no DQ match, kind of a street fight kind of thing. Hope to God it's not like a gimmicky, Viking rules match or whatever they want to say for Bronson, right? But
and it might be that's my thought is what happens next. Mm-hmm. Like where do you continue to go with it? Because I'll tell you, like the match was good. I think it was definitely one of the better matches on the card. Obviously, it was odd that it ended after a superplex. I know that's a silly thing to say.
It's an odd finisher,
but I was like, when he hit the superplex, it was an odd way to finish it because I'm like, oh, people hit superplex is a huge move, but nobody really finishes a match with it. It's always like, oh, it gets hit, and then both guys are hurt, or gals are hurt, and then nobody gets a cover. So when he got the cover in the count, I was expecting him to kick out, and then he didn't. I was like, that was kind of it felt abrupt. But at least there's a continuation on it, and you can continue to build the story. I just wonder kind of what's it building to, and it might just build to some weird gimmicky match at the Royal Rumble, but it's not super clear.
It's not, but I think the ending with the superplex, I kind of did like it because I feel like both men were trying to hit their finisher and they couldn't get the right positioning to do it, right? And every time Bronson would get up onto that turnbuckle, he'd get caught, right? So I think the superplex, the way they played it off was more of like, hey, these are big men that are never manhandled this way, and the first time he actually is, he got hurt, like doing it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think it was one of those like shock. But again, because Bronson too, he just like threw his arm over and was like, barely getting it over because they're not used to having to give that much, exert that much energy to an opponent.
And I half expected the ring to explode because that always happens when they get two big guys, like Mark Henry and Brock Lesnar. Whenever they get like two big guys up and they're doing a superplex, I'm like, oh, the ring exploded. So I have expected the ring to be rigged, but it was like it's too early on in the show; they can't do that.
We weren't even halfway through the show. No.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And we were 90 minutes in, and that's where I was like, this is only the third match. We are 90 minutes into a 3-hour show.
No, we had 6
third
matches.
Match.
6 actual wrestling matches in a 3-hour show, which is insane. Like
in a 3-hour show.
Like this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
that's where I was like, there's very little wrestling happening. And if you think about it, like the first one was good, but it was like the 2 commercial breaks. the Rhea Ripley squash match was really short.
Like 2
And
minutes.
so it
Like
was
5
like, there
minutes.
just wasn't a whole lot of wrestling
Yeah.
in this wrestling show. In a 3-hour wrestling show, there wasn't that much wrestling.
I know it baffles me because I'm like, hey, this is a wrestling show. You know, I remember watching Raw, and you know, I'm not expecting like 20 matches, right? That's a pay-per-view. I mean, even the pay-per-views aren't even that long, right? But at the same time, like, at least give me like 3 matches within the hour, make it 9 matches. You know, like, you can handle that. You know, that would be easy. But it's just not. It's all promos and you know, again, after that match, Judgment Day does an in-ring promo only for R-Truth to interrupt it and, you know, get jumped, but brings Creed Brothers out to the rescue for some odd reason. Well, no, correction.
I know,
because they're gonna face them.
No,
so
because
they
they've
come
been
out to
feuding with
save.
Judgment Day.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
That one made sense.
But then we got another you know, kind of throwaway match here, which was not good. Was Kaden and Katana versus Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. For some odd reason, again, Piper and Chelsea on commentary. They didn't do well then. Last week when they were on commentary, they didn't do well. Actually, they did worse.
They didn't do anything on this
one. Well, because this match wasn't even long enough. It was a short match. This match was over quick.
It was 3 minutes. I timed it because I was like, whoa, wait a second. I was like, because I went back and checked, and I was like, this is really, like, it was so short that the special guest commentary didn't have a chance to get any commentary going.
Nothing.
And yeah, I'm calling them C squared now. It's either C squared or K squared. Because it's like Carter and Chance or Katana and Kaden. I'm like, this is just too confusing.
Yeah. And I knew they were going to push them hard because they had that package way before in the beginning of the show.
Yeah, the video package.
Yeah, the
video package was
EDC. Early. Yeah, where they're at EDC partying it up, and I'm like, okay. And then they're like,
you know, we're
the EDC style entrance,
like,
yeah, exactly.
Around. And it's like,
time.
Okay,
this party boy.
This feels kind of out of place. Like here's them partying on their own time, in case you needed to know. And
they don't train.
Yeah, so
they party.
So once you see the video package, you know they're going to win because it's like we're going to be the women's champions.
But what does that say about Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell? They are a legit tag team who are great wrestlers. Both of them have had gold in the past. Indy Hartwell, most recently, being the NXT Women's Champion. And you're over here like, these two chicks spend their weekend raving at the EDC Fest, and then they come out on Raw, beat you in a quick match, and now they get their title shot next week, which we know they're going to win. They've been pushing so hard. They're going to be new champs by or at Royal Rumble. If they don't win next week, they're going to get another shot, and they're probably going to win by Royal Rumble. They will be champions.
Well, yeah, and they have got to get a name for their tag team. Like this Katana and Kaden thing's not working. Like actually get a name for your tag team. Like that's when you've made it. DIY has a name. Imperium has a name. The Usos had a name. The Kabuki Warriors. We'll talk about SmackDown. The Kabuki Warriors has a name. Pick something. Don't just use your names. Otherwise, you're not a real tag team.
No, if you're just going by first names. And then the funny thing is that you had Natalia and oh my goodness, the girl with the shiniest wizard. You had them there. They just got beat.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, they just got beat last week, and there they are just watching. Like they had some interest, like some skill.
I know they're like watching screen, like, all right, we're gonna get him. It's like, no, you guys are out of this, like, whatever this tournament is. Like that, yeah, Tegan. It's like this unofficial tournament that's happening for the women's tag team championships. Y'all are already eliminated. You're done.
Yeah, you've
been. It's like they're just standing there, like rubbing their hands together, watching the monitor.
You're watching intently to a match that you're not gonna have a part in anymore. Like, I don't get it, but oh well. After that, yet another promo. Becky Lynch comes down to run down on Nia. Talks about the punch heard around the world, which obviously, you know, I get torn because I don't like Nia on the mic, but I know somebody probably wrote this for her, and kudos to them because talking about that punch is what made Becky Lynch who she was, and no one can argue that image of her with a bloody face standing up at the rafters or at the stands in the crowd, that is what solidified her as a superstar. She was already one in her own right, but you add in that badassery, that just put her over the top, right? So I guess that's the angle they're going for, is Nia's like, nah, you need me, because then sure enough, Becky wants to square up, and Nia's like, nah, you need this more than I do, and she like walked away. Again, smart words. I know they weren't Nia's, but again, they were good. Yeah. And it was a decent promo. When an in-ring promo happens, it should be short, just like that. To the point, not these long drawn out.
Yeah, keep it short and sweet. Matches.
Yeah.
Not CM Punk talking for 20 minutes.
Yeah, pretty much. But then after that,
Got to get him a CM Punk shots, like at least a couple times a show. Like I have
you
to
got
do it.
You got to go for it. So next was a great match in Imperium and DIY with their mystery partner, which we all knew, The Miz. Miz comes out. They had a good match. Actually, both teams worked really well together because DIY, a great tag team. Imperium, an amazing group of talented men that just get it done. And then you had The Miz come in, who has tagged with Ciampa before. So you have that aspect. And then he's also brawled with Johnny Gargano too. So that was actually pretty cool to see them all work together. Of course, both Johnny Gargano and Miz from Ohio or Cleveland, they got the big pop. Miz looked good, surprisingly. He looked really good. He had that hot tag and just lit Gunther up with offense. It was great. It was great to see that. And I thought that was very, very good. A bunch of reversals. I like the it kicks that everyone still giving him the yes chance, which is awesome. Excuse me. Giving them the yes chance. And then when he tried to go for the big one, that's the one Gunther just like chopped him away, which of course Gunther and his chops are freaking brutal. Turns it into a Boston Crab, almost getting the win there, but Gargano, saving him. And again, just the whole momentum shift, that last Fury. I wish the match would have gone just for like a little bit longer because it was such a good match. And that final Fury was just so back and forth in the momentum swings. Then of course you had Miz geniusly hitting the figure 4 on Gunther, making him look like he was going to tap because he had him right in the middle of the ring. Vinci comes to save him, and then Vinci ends up taking the pinfall from Miz to save Gunther. After which Miz, of course, later on in a backstage promo, Miz wants to get another shot at the title. Gunther obliges under the condition. Miz can no longer, if he loses, Miz can no longer challenge for the title as long as Gunther's champion, which I think is a great stipulation. Hopefully we see a much stronger showing from Miz on this one, and hopefully it works out better. I'd like to see Miz take that title from Gunther because I feel Gunther's ready for a championship run, but I just don't think they know when to pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, and I was kind of hoping they wouldn't have him lose. They would just have him like relinquish the title or just be like, hey, I'm done with it. I've had this long reign. And so that you keep this air of invincibility. But I do feel like the logical progression is you're not going to have him go against The Miz again and lose. Like that would just be weird. Yeah. It's like you're really discrediting The Miz. This was my favorite match of the night. Like DIY and Imperium have been my favorite thing about the Raw the last 2 weeks because that was my favorite match last week as well. It was fast paced. It was fun. I will say, like at the beginning, I like how they're like, "Who's the mystery partner going to be?" And then you hear that "I came to play," and then Wade Barrett and Michael Cole are both like, "What? What? The Miz?" And I'm like, "Okay, that's actually the most logical person." Like, how are you guys this surprised? Yeah. Like, the Miz has been feuding with Gunther for like the last month. It's like, who would possibly want to go up against Imperium? It's like, obviously, like this is not a huge shock, but I know that was the whole point. They're supposed to make it seem like it's shocking, but it was like, come on, guys, like that's probably the most realistic opponent that you can like. Oh yeah, of course it's a Miz.
Yeah, and if there were any doubts, the fact that Gargano was like, can we trust him? And Ciampa's like, oh yeah, I can trust. It's the Miz.
I don't know.
They had that
history,
feud,
right?
They had that feud, you know, and I was like, they're telegraphing.
Like they're not
so
subtle
much.
about any of it. Like they really telegraph these things. So they're like, let's not leave anything to chance.
I agree. And so, thankfully, at the end main event, we had Cody and Shinsuke again out the gate, just flurry of offense. Like both men just going at it, which was awesome to see. Shinsuke showing that aggressive side. I'm loving it. I'm loving every bit of that. You know, even the promos are awesome. The new attire, like the samurai getup the samurai, I guess you can call it robe that he wears, is awesome. That's really, really cool. And then just coming out very just cold, right? And then of course Shinsuke finding that weak point goes at Cody's arm because he knows it's surgically repaired and all that good stuff. But Shinsuke again Cody working Shinsuke's knee. So each man had a body part to work, and the whole time I'm wondering, okay, how are we going to end this match without giving away an ending, right? Because we want to make sure that these two can wrestle at the Rumble. This should be the blow off should be at the Rumble, in my opinion. So how are they going to do it? Is what I kept asking myself. Both men are very evenly matched. Seeing them wrestle in the ring, I thought was really cool because you got to see how they both fight very well together. They both wrestle very well together. It's a clash of strategies, a clash of techniques, and I think they both do extremely well and complement one another. I love this matching. I wish it would have ended before it started, personally, because the ending was still kind of wonky.
Yeah.
Like, Shinsuke just blatantly hitting a mist right in front of the ref, and the ref just throwing up his hands like, bro, really? Like, it's not very good, right?
Well, yeah, but I when I saw it, I was like, well, that's kind of the only thing you can do at this point.
At
like,
that point,
you let the match go on, and so when it happened, I was like, oh, thank God. Like nobody's getting a pinfall over the other one.
No,
and
so
because it was like they kind of painted themselves into this corner. Yeah, it's like something's gonna happen, and I think he does the miss thing like every match, and he manages to not get caught. So how is it that why would he just be like, nah, like I'm gonna just throw it out there because I want to get disqualified.
Yeah,
just because the writers said so. Like it didn't make sense, but it was probably the only way they could get out of it.
It probably was. When I saw Cody getting interviewed before the match backstage, I thought to myself, that's where he's going to get jumped. He's going to get beat, and he's going to get beat up. Nope. That would have been the opportunity. That would have been the opportunity to do it. But I saw how much time was left, and I was like, nah, they're going through with this. So they did. Then for some reason, after the match ended, Shinsuke just jumps Cody, which is great. Again, showing the aggressive side, showing that he still wants pieces of him, and he starts going at him. Then for some odd reason, here come the Creed Bros, like superheroes.
Here comes the Creed brothers. I was like, are these guys like the hall monitors? Like they came down for the save against R-Truth, and then it's like, hey, wait a second. It's like, and that was I thought the same. I was like, are the Creeds just responsible for saving everybody now? Like, hey, get out of here. As soon as it happened, I was like, come on, like, get somebody else out here. Now, this tells me, and I haven't seen like what's on the lineup for next week, that next week's going to be a 6-man tag match with Cody and the Creed brothers against Shinsuke and Judgment Day. And like, I haven't seen anything announced, but it sounds like it's the logical thing because they're not going to match them up one-on-one again. So put them in a 6-man.
The Creed brothers have their championship match next week.
Oh, they do have their championship. That's right. I think I saw the promo. Yeah, I think it was in Smackdown. So yeah, I guess not because I saw that I was like, why are you having the Creed brothers?
That would have been terrible. Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah,
no, I'm glad.
But it's still like, why the Creed brothers though? Like,
I know they're trying to put them as.
It's like, hey, we need something for these guys to do.
Face. Yeah, they want them to be these overly hype baby faces, and I'm just like, they're already baby faces. Like,
and they're great. It's like, but yeah. They're doing really well right now. It's like you don't need to throw them into everything. So yeah, I agree. That was just kind of like when I saw it.
I agree. So overall, the show, in my opinion, was not as great. Just because, again, my biggest gripe: 6 wrestling matches in a 3-hour show doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
My score for this show, I would say, and I'm being generous, is probably still a C- because it's just close to a D. Just because of the fact that, again, too many in-ring promos. They're trying, and I get it. They have a lot of storylines going on, but that's what you use the matches for. That's what a wrestler does. They tell the story in the ring. I mean, call me old-fashioned. Maybe I'm too used to lucha libre, but the story is told in the ring by these performers, and by these wrestlers, and they do their storylines justice in that moment. Whether it's maybe the faces are squashing some heel local talent, right? Then you get the true heels to come out and jump them or to interfere so they can get that loss against a nobody, right? Like, that's how you do it to build that momentum. You do the backstage brawls. You do the pull-apart brawls backstage, Maybe have a couple in-ring promos. The CM Punk one, honestly, that I feel if I had to do anything different, I would have moved that to the very end of the show. But everyone knew he was going to Raw anyways because Randy Orton went to SmackDown. You can't have 2 big stars like that on the same show. So we all knew it. That's why they did it. Start the show with that. Get it out the way. Because you know what happened is after that promo, all the backstage interviews were like, what do you think about CM Punk being signed to Raw now? What do you think? I said, no.
It was like CM Punk like high-fiving people backstage. Like, hey, what's going on? There was that weird sequence.
Crazy line.
Yeah, he's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, why is he being like all buddy? Like, this is weird.
You know, once the cameras are
Everything
off, they're
about that
like,
was
"Oh
strange.
God, that guy!" Like, yeah. So I mean,
I know.
and I've read
Well,
articles that backstage isn't so happy with him. So I mean, it is all fake.
I can imagine they wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And I heard they picked the time slot. Like from what I understood is that they picked the hour that had the way they thought the most viewership would be. And so that's why they had him do it in the middle of the show, because that was like the slot that has the most people tuned in typically, because they wanted the most eyeballs on that spot.
True.
So I was like, okay, if that's your reason for plugging it in the middle of the show,
makes sense.
fine.
Yeah.
But if that's where your most eyeballs are, put a wrestling match in there and don't cut to commercial. Like here's an
Put
idea.
DIY and Imperium in that slot.
Put like showcase a really great match there, and I think that's what the old adage about like don't tell, show. It's the old writing thing. Don't tell, don't describe it, show it. And to your point, people used to story tell through the matches. Now it's 1,000 video packages because like, hey, we need to catch everybody up. And then here's what happened last week. Let them talk about it like during the match. Like the commentators was to catch you up on what's going on or what the history is between these two while the match is going on. You don't need to watch a pre-pack, but they're all about the production value for the video packages. So yeah, I give this one a C also. Like it was not a good, I was like, do I give it a D? D minus? I'll say I'll still be generous, but it was a C show for me.
Yeah,
like,
no.
you know,
best.
and that's being generous.
Yeah, not very happy with
But you know what? Business is about to pick up because SmackDown was awesome. I'm going to start off by saying that, but we'll dive right into SmackDown from the 15th. Open up with the return of Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. So they opened up the show. Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, Jimmy and Solo. Everybody was out there. Solo. So they come down, the usual trash talking with the crowd and all that good stuff, and acknowledge me and all that. So Roman starts talking about it's the holiday season. He's talking about it's promotion time, and then you can see Jimmy getting all excited in the back, and he's like, I'm going to congratulate the man, who's represented the family well and who's next in line as the tribal chief. And you see Jimmy's like, it was obvious to telegraph it wasn't going to be him.
It's not
because he was like way too like popping his collar and like this. And then he's like, Jimmy, help me congratulate your brother Solo. And of course it's like, oh, Jimmy wasn't too happy about that. And I'm hoping, please, for the love of God, this leads back to a Jimmy and Jey Uso reunion, and they get the team back together. Because while they're fine individual competitors, I think they're a great tag team, and they haven't done anything with them as individual competitors. So I'm like, please, 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 let this be the beginning of getting them back together and having the Usos as a tag team.
Yeah,
and that will. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Oh yeah, okay. So of course they have that. He's a little disappointed, and then of course out comes Randy Orton to interrupt, demands a title shot immediately, and then Roman talks about which I liked it. Well, Randy's been thinking about him for the last 18 months. He hasn't thought at all about Randy, and that Randy is crazy if he thinks he's going to be gone for 18 months and just walk in and get a title shot. Which I was like, I don't usually agree with Roman. But I'm with him on this one. He's actually right. You can't just walk in and get a title shot. So he told Randy to listen to the voices in his head. And you don't want none of this, and talked about it. And which there was a lot of callbacks in this. And this is a good promo to open with. There's a lot of callbacks. And Randy talked about how, yes, you've evolved and you've gotten better. And you're a legend now. But I was once and will always be a legend killer, which I like that. That was a nice nod to the old legend killer, Randy Orton. And Randy goes for the RKO, and Roman kind of ducks out of it, but he looks afraid and he looks intimidated. And by the way, when they were standing like toe to toe, I'm like, Randy's bigger than Roman Reigns. Like I hadn't really seen them across from each other, and I was like, man, he looks like he could whip Roman Reigns. So I'm again excited about this one. Worried it's going to be a placeholder thing, but we'll see. So the setup for tonight was he's got to earn his way back in. So main event gets announced. It's going to be Jimmy Uso versus Randy Orton in the main event. Wasn't too long of a promo. I think it was just right. It didn't go out too long. Lots of good callbacks in this one.
I agree. I think it was a great promo.
And then we just jumped right out.
You you got Randy and you got Roman, two guys that are amazing, good on the mic, and it just worked really well, right? I think that was a good callback. All the Legend Killer callback, I loved that. That was like, all right, yeah, nice.
Yeah.
But it was funny because, like I was saying, I think with Jay losing all these matches, even though he's hitting every single finisher he knows, and Jimmy just being the lackey and getting thrown into these matches with, just to kind of do the dirty work like a scrub. I'm hoping it does kind of like, maybe that's why they're doing it, right? They're going to get them back together. Maybe they're going to start talking and be like, dude, I'm not doing anything for myself. Like, I'm not doing anything, and then hopefully that does, because that would be great. I appreciate the attempt at the solo runs. I just feel that they're better suited as a tag team, and I feel like it would be a lot better for the tag division as well.
And they're a really great tag team. Yeah. And that's where I'm like, in the tag team division, we don't have a ton of great tag teams in WWE, so they're a great one. Get them back together, and it feels like, and we'll see as the night progressed, it feels like they're definitely building to that, or building to a flip at some point. Yeah. But we got straight into the action after this one. This is where I was saying Smackdown actually had wrestling, had a lot of really good wrestling this week, because it jumped right into the U.S. Championship tournament, which is continuing. So Carmelo Hayes, who was the surprise entrant that Logan Paul didn't know who was. Somebody from NXT is going to be on. I don't know. It could be anybody. Yeah. Well, anybody was Carmelo Hayes. Yeah. And he was going up against Grayson Waller. This match was a fun one. It was exciting. Yeah. It was fast-paced. Lots of good spots in it. There were only two things about it that I did not enjoy, so I will just start with those. I did not enjoy Logan Paul's selfie trash talking, because it's kind of, again, Logan Paul's not great with promos, and you get a weird selfie of him like, hey, I don't know who you are, Hayes. Your career's going to be, tell your family to DVR you, but it didn't come off as like genuine. Like he still seemed like he was reading a script, and it didn't come off well. And the second thing was Grayson Waller's ring attire, which he looks like Pebbles Flintstone out there. Like it's so distracting. I'm like, get him something else. Like the leopard print thing is just not. It's not working, buddy. Do something else. It's very distracting, and it takes me out of it. The match was great though, and Carmelo Hayes pulled off the upset. We'll call it an upset. Hit a beautiful top rope leg drop that had so much air. He could have ordered takeout while he was up there. He was up there forever. Great matchup. Loved the finish. This one was a really good one. Nice palate cleanser from all the non-wrestling that we've seen on Raw. So off to a good start here.
I agree. And I was very excited to see that Carmelo Hayes got that main roster call-up. I thought it was going to be Braun Breaker. I honestly thought so. But for some reason, it looks like they're still keeping him in NXT. I don't know if they feel he's not ready yet, or they still not done with him. But again, Carmelo Hayes, great athlete. I love him in NXT. He did a lot of good things. Gonna do great things here. I can see him going far in this tournament. I like that his first opponent was Grayson Waller. Again, a believable opponent, a good first match, and just able to showcase his talent. Like, that man can fly. Like I said, like you said, like that top rope, he was up in the air for what seemed forever.
So good.
Again, I really enjoyed it.
It was really good and really fun and really good showcase. And they did a video package to introduce people to him as well, which made sense because he's coming over from NXT. So I get
a lot of viewers. Yeah.
A lot of people are like, hey, if you don't know me. So that one, I'm like, I got it, because he's, if the SmackDown crowd doesn't watch NXT, they don't know who this guy is. So that one, made sense. But man,
and the Logan
really
Paul
good
promo
match.
Yeah, the Logan Paul promo, it seemed like a schoolyard bully just trying to talk trash. It's really what it seemed like. That's the vibe I got, right?
Poking at you.
Yeah, he's just like, your mom. Like, he might as well have said that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was so stupid. But I think
it does. It just comes across as very juvenile.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's very juvenile person. So. He is, but it's not one of those that, it's intentionally done where it kind of rubs you the wrong way, and you're like, like, man, I want to see that guy lose. Like, he just sounds like an idiot. But hey, what do I know? This he's got like $100 million or something. He's filthy rich. Yeah. And then we immediately went into the next U.S. Championship tournament match. And so you immediately had to see him again doing another promo talking about Austin Theory, and like how great Austin Theory was. And, again, same thing. It was just like, ugh. But Kevin Owens versus Austin Theory was another great match. It was super entertaining. They were working Kevin Owens has a broken hand angle, so they keep working with that. Where he had the cast on it, and that was like the big thing of him favoring the injury the whole time and getting hurt. And Kevin Owens talking about flying around the ring. The big man can fly too. He had a swanton. He had the big frog splash, which looked great. I mean, he was flying all over the place. Big ups to Kevin Owens, Austin Theory. Very entertaining matchup. Obviously, Austin Theory's got to do what he's got to do. Starts attacking the hand, and then when they get towards the end, Kevin Owens realizes, hey, I got this cast. I might as well use it, and just like clubs him in the head with it, and then wins. Which I'm like, okay, so you have a face using heel tactics, which I was like, all right, I'm not big on that because I'm like, technically he cheated. He technically cheated to win, but he was okay with that, and Austin Theory's bad, so it's all right. So he's going to advance, and he's actually going to face Carmelo Hayes next week. So that should be interesting. They're keeping the faces together. And then Bobby Lashley is going to be taking on Santos Escobar next week as well. So that'll be the semifinals for the tournament. But back-to-back really great matches showcasing really great wrestling. It's like an amazing concept.
I agree.
And so I was already tickled by this the show so far.
Yeah, I mean, I love the match. Kevin Owens winning by heel tactics. I mean, that's like, it's Kevin Owens, right? Like, I mean, Kevin Owens isn't the straightest arrow, right?
Yeah.
But he'll get it done. But I enjoyed it. I was worried a little bit because they were really telegraphing his loss, right? Like, they were talking about, I have it written down here. So talking about, the winner will face Carmelo Hayes, which of course we were thinking like they're not going to do a face versus a face, or a face and a heel, especially someone coming from NXT. And then they talked about his hand, and then the hand being worked by him. And then of course Waller and Austin Theory are partners, right? So you normally don't have one partner lose and the other one lose too. You usually have 1 and 1. That's usually the dynamic that they try to go. Even like in the Rumble, one partner will get eliminated, the other one will last, and that's usually what happens. But I was worried, but I'm glad that they let it go out, and I'm glad they let Kevin Owens win this one. I think that's going to be a great match next week between it's next week, right? It's between him and Carmelo.
Yeah, it's next week. Yeah, they announced it at the end of the show.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun match.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun, which tells me that it's going to be a really good show next week.
Yeah.
Getting a frog in my throat right now. It's going to be a really good show next week because, I mean, they kind of announced the whole card lineup at the end, but both of those semifinal matches are next week. So
I'm curious.
Going to be excited to see how they play it.
I'm surprised. I'm curious how they're going to do. I'm curious how they're going to do Bobby Lashley against Santos Escobar. I'm hoping Santos wins. Personally, that's just me. But
I think he will.
I think he will too. Dirty tactics.
Yeah, I felt like it's going to be Santos versus KO. Like, this is really what I felt like it's going to come down to those two.
Yeah, it's going to be those two, and it's going to be like a huge blow off.
The whole point is to get KO versus Logan Paul. Like, I think they're taking this progression to get there.
Yeah.
And Carmelo Hayes is not going to take advantage of KO's injury because he's a good guy. Right. And then they're going to have the finals, and it's going to be Santos doing all the heel tactics and KO pull it out. This is how I feel they're going to play this out. Yeah. But we'll see. Maybe not. I mean, maybe Bobby Lashley advances, but it should be Santos that advances.
It should. I agree.
And then we got another backstage promo because we don't have enough of those.
You have to have them.
Roman Reigns reminded Jimmy that it's promotion season, baby. He did the whole... and if he takes care of Orton, he could get anything. I know. And he's like, you'll get anything. The possibilities are endless. And then Jimmy goes, yeet, which Roman did not like. And you could not telegraph this breakup any harder if you tried. Unless your name was Samuel Morris, he invented the telegraph. So, message from Samuel Morris: stop telegraphing this one so hard. So they kept playing into this one, and then we got another promo, which was the Damage Control promo. And now all the girls are united for some reason.
Now they're buddies.
All the Bailey stuff is like gone and forgotten. They're all buddies again. They're like, hey, this is all part of the plan. Well, I mean, yeah, at some point they're going to steer back to it. But Bailey sold this essentially as, this is my master plan, is we're going to get all the titles, and, Asuka and Kairi Sane are the Kabuki Warriors again, and they're going to become the tag team champions. And I'm going to declare for the Royal Rumble. So Bailey's in the Women's Royal Rumble now. and she's declaring for the Rumble, and then she's going to win, and then she's going to become the women's champion for Rhea Ripley's title, and they're going to have all the titles, and so everything's happy and great. And then we immediately go into a tag match with the Kabuki Warriors again, which I'm glad that they've got them back officially. Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. Just one thing I wanted to know.
No,
this is, again, just me put some tinfoil on my head if you want to. But there is a line that Bailey said about saying that this was when she was talking about the whole, this is the master plan and all that stuff. However, she gave credit to someone else being the mastermind. Did you catch that line?
Yeah, I got that one.
So, but look at the smile that she had on her face afterwards, right? I mean, she was kind of smirking a little bit, and I'm like, she declared for the Rumble. I'm still gonna say that they team up on her in the Rumble and throw her out. I'm still gonna stick by that.
I figured they'd have to. Yeah. Well, because then why did you do all that? Mm-hmm. Like if like 1 week, like we're all good. Bailey helped one time. Like Bailey helped Asuka beat Charlotte, and we're fine. It's kind of how they pitched this. So I would agree they've got to continue it.
I mean, Dakota sold it so well. Dakota Kai, she said, "Oh, Dakota's the mastermind." And Dakota Kai had this smile on her face, and I was like, "There's still dissension." And I'm confident.
Well, and the mastermind is she's pretending everything's all good, and then she's going to take over the group. So you're probably right. I think that would make logical sense. Otherwise, they've completely wasted the storyline. And then it was fun. It was funny when the Kabuki Warriors come out. They're making their way down to the ring, and then they get attacked from behind by Mission and Selena Vega. And I'm like, okay, again, heel tactics. Like, you guys are the faces. You're going to run an ambush while they're walking down. So I'm like, so this is 2 times now we've seen the faces use heel tactics. So Kevin Owens did it. Now they did it. And then they get ambushed while their ambush is happening. They go to break, come back from break. Match is already going on. And this was a good match. Again, there were no stinkers on SmackDown today.
No.
It was a good match. It was exciting. I will say, I feel like Zelina Vega is the weak link in that in that matchup, because obviously Kairi Sane and Asuka are great, and they have great chemistry together, and they were really, really good. Michin was really good as well. Zelina Vega just kind of looks like her timing's a little bit off the whole time. She's definitely the weakest one out there. But all in all, it was a really strong match. There were more shenanigans, obviously, because heels got a heel, so there were more shenanigans at the end where Dakota Kai comes out and makes a distraction, and then Bailey shoves Michin off the top rope, and then they rally, and Kairi Sane hit the insane elbow, and they pick up the win. So all in all, good. Everybody's happy. They're all working together again. We'll see how this plays out, but for now, everything is good with Damage Control. But they've got to definitely have to be building. But it was a good matchup overall. I was pretty.
It was very fun. I agree. I'm a big fan of the insane elbow. It's a very simple finisher, but Kairi does it so well.
It looks good. She sells the heck out of it.
Gets the height, throws her legs up, and like just straight elbow coming all the way down. Like, she hits it so well. Like, I love the way it looks. Just the visual of it is so cool, and I love that finisher. It's simple, but it's awesome. So it was a fun match. I enjoyed watching it. Of course, both teams worked okay together. I mean, of course, the Kabuki Warriors obviously are going to work well together because they've tag teamed before together. But Zelina, I feel like they're still trying to find a place for her in the card. And I don't know if tag team is her go-to. I think maybe being a singles competitor. She was a little bit more fired up as a singles competitor, I feel. But, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe this is a start. She got Michin on her side, and I mean, Mia Yim is such a great talent as well. So she was able to kind of hide behind a lot of the talent that Michin brings to the table too. But I mean, it could just be. I feel like sometimes they need, and this is going to sound very weird. It's out of left field, I know, but I feel like WWE kind of needs to bring back to light the cruiserweight division, but also have a women's cruiserweight division. Because you have the women like Zelina Vega. You have even Kairi Sane would be considered cruiserweight as well. I feel you can put
she would.
You can put a lot of folks in there that would like what's her who is it Katana Chance or whatever she's Katana whatever. she would also be a good cruiserweight. Chance, so that Candice LeRae would be a great cruiserweight. There's lots of women there that could probably be used as cruiserweights in the women's division. I think that'd be a great addition if they were to consider it. But also in the men's division too, bring back the cruiserweight division. I've always been a fan of cruiserweights. It's always fun. But yeah, that's my little soapbox stance. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there's an opportunity there. And I think, yes, with Zelina Vega specifically, I feel like they generally put people in tag teams to kind of hide if they have deficiencies. So
yeah,
that's kind of what I feel like is happening there. Because especially when you see her work, it's like she's not as good as everyone else, and she doesn't look as fluid as everyone else. Right. And maybe that's kind of why they're pairing her. I don't want her to turn into Natalia, where she's just in a tag team all the time.
And a
whoever will tag with me, or they should put her and Natalia together. That'd be great. It's like put her and Natalia together. You guys will figure it out. I'm sure she'll hit the rotation at some point. There you go. Let's see. They need something to do on one of the shows. Speaking of needing something to do, then we go to another backstage promo with Jimmy and Solo this time, with Jimmy worried that he's getting set up against Randy Orton. He's like, Solo, if you knew something was going down, would you tell me? And I'm like, Earth to Jimmy, they're going to turn on you. Something bad is going to happen. Like, again, it could not be more obvious. He's like, would you tell me? And he's just like, and there's some baseball signs at him, and it was like, okay, I don't know that. I guess that means that he's gonna help him. I don't know. And then we get the teasers after that. We go into everything that's happening next week. So the U.S. tournament's continuing. They announced, and then SmackDown next week. They're gonna have Dragon Lee versus Butch for the NXT North American Championship. Like matches that came out of left field. Because I'm like, see this, and I'm like, okay, so you're gonna do this. Obviously, as a showcase for NXT, but I'm like,
it is. Why
is Butch getting a title shot? Like, we saw him lose 2 weeks ago to Bobby Lashley, and now he's competing. Like, what happened? How did he earn this title shot for the North American Championship? I haven't seen NXT, so I don't know if he went on there and won a bunch of matches or something. But when I saw it, as someone just watching SmackDown, I'm like, I would think, how did that guy who lost get a title shot? And because he's clearly not going to beat Dragon Lee. So that was a head scratcher for me.
I mean, it should be an interesting match. I mean, both men could, that could be a banger right there. But that's probably why. Maybe because they know both men would probably work well together. I don't know. I mean, it's odd.
Well, but in the context of the show, though, why is Butch getting a title shot? Like, it just seemed so random when I saw it. I was like, oh, like, not that it will be a bad match. And Butch is great. Yeah. But in the context of what we've seen, it's like you're handing, like, we just got told Randy Orton's been on the show for 18 months and he hasn't earned a title shot. This guy just lost and he's earned a title shot. So there's some continuity issues there.
I agree.
And then there's a Holiday Havoc match next week, which they teased too. It's an 8-woman tag match with Damage Control against Bianca Belair and friends. So that'll be interesting. So we kind of got like the whole rundown for next week.
Well, that sounds like it's pretty much
main event time. Yeah, well, it's War Games without all the cool people. It's like no Charlotte Flair, no Becky Lynch. It's like all the heavy hitters are gone. It's like Bianca Belair and like Zelina Vega and Michin. And it's like all the B-level people. Yeah, so I'm like, so Bianca, it's like you're not going to win this time. Like all your cool people aren't here anymore. All the heavy hitters are out. They're all on vacation. Main event time though: Randy Orton versus Jimmy Uso. Quick start to this one, and then quick commercial break, because that's the thing. You got to do at least 2 commercial breaks during a main event. Apparently, WWE's got to pay the bills. There was good action, and then we had another kind of fake knee injury where Randy was like dumped out of the ring. He kept going for that elevated DDT off the ropes. And then he like got dumped the second time, and then he falls, and then he grabs his knee, and they're like, "Oh, he's favoring his knee. We'll be right back." Then when they came back, I was like, I guess his knee's fine, because he never grabbed it after that. He wasn't like injured. He wasn't limping around. So I guess he was okay. Took him 3 times to hit the elevated DDT. Finally got it. And then Randy was at the end of the match waiting to hit the RKO, and then Solo comes down for the save, and then LA Knight runs down and attacks Solo, and then Orton hits the RKO for the win. LA Knight then gets attacked from behind by Roman Reigns. And then Roman comes in. It's Roman and Randy in the middle of the ring, brawling back and forth, which is awesome. And then, of course, Jimmy and Roman start double-teaming Randy Orton and beating him down. LA Knight gets back in. Then Solo gets back in, so it's 3-on-2. The Bloodline's got the upper hand. All hope is lost. And then you have the music hit, and the phenomenal AJ Styles returns out of nowhere. Hits the springboard, phenomenal forearm on Roman Reigns, get into the ring, looking yoked. Let me tell you, AJ Styles clearly has been hanging out with Randy Orton's pharmacist. Clearly those two are like gym bros, and they even share needles or something. But he looked ridiculous. He looked absolutely phenomenal, and every pun intended, he looked phenomenal. And so they clear the ring. The heroes are standing tall. AJ Styles is looking great. And then he unexpectedly attacks LA Knight, hits him turns around, hits him with a big clothesline, and then kind of rolls out and does like the stare down with the Bloodline kind of doing the Scooby-Doo, trying to figure out what happened. And then that was how the show ended. It was a lot of excitement returning AJ Styles. And I guess the biggest question at the end, when it was all done, I was like, oh, that was awesome. It's a great show. And then I thought back and I was like, my biggest question, at least, was, does the WWE wellness policy still exist? Because how do we have these 40-year-olds coming out looking ridiculous? They're all completely pumped up and completely jacked. And then just completely out of nowhere look better than they did in their 20s. So, WWE wellness policy, I'm looking at you.
I mean, there's ways around it, right? I mean, I've read articles where,
Triple H is giving him advice. Remember Triple H when he returned from his quad injury and he was yoked? He looked ridiculous.
Yeah.
He looked juicy.
The wellness policy really is more for they get suspended or they get fined or whatever. So maybe they pay those fines in advance or something. And they're just like, hey, man.
I guess. I was like, man, but he looks fantastic. He looks as good. Probably he looked better in his return than Randy Orton did. Like when you just see comparatively to what you expect their physiques. Because Randy Orton has always looked great.
Yeah, he always has.
So it was pretty wild. It was a great show. And this was like for me, I give SmackDown an A++. Like this was one of the better SmackDowns that I've seen in a long time. All the matches were good, well paced. The promos were what they were. They were pretty short and sweet and concise. So I was very happy with this show. So I'll give it. A+ is probably generous. I'll give it an A.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little more critical, I guess. I think
apparently I was like, there's nothing terrible on this show.
No, nothing terrible. I just just talking about the basics here, looking back here, and talking about what really threw me off was that ending, right, where AJ Styles comes out and he took out Roman with a phenomenal forearm.
Yeah.
Right. And so the fact that he walks past them unscathed is odd to me. Roman's talking about respect. And
that was
they just look at him and let him walk by untouched. I'm like, why? I mean, he literally just hit you in the face with his forearm and you're just like, it's cool, man. Go ahead and go. Cause you clotheslined LA Knight.
That didn't make it. Took out LA Knight, so
I mean, I guess
it's
right
now all even. It's even Stevens now.
Yeah, and then no, overall, I think it was a good show. I would agree with an A. I always try to.
You can give it like a B or B+.
No, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with an A just because I liked the pacing of it. I liked that there wasn't as many promos. I liked that they kept the storylines going. I liked that there was the back-to-back matches. I liked Carmelo Hayes as a debuting NXT star. I feel he was well overdue, and I'm very happy to see him on the main roster. And I hope they do push him well. I hope they do. I hope, obviously, we know Kevin Owens is going to get the shot at the title against Logan Paul because of their beef. Because even then, going back to that real quick, you had, I forget who said it. Somebody said when he hit Austin Theory with his punch, they're like, they compared it to Logan Paul's punch. And I'm like, that's kind of telegraphing it a little bit. It's going to be blow for blow, so to speak. So he's going to keep the cast.
Yeah.
And probably keep using it to get to the title match. But I mean, I think it was a great show. I enjoyed it. I'm good with an A. I'm good with an A. I think the promo in the beginning of the Bloodline was great. I love Roman as a heel. I hated him as a face. I was seriously just like over it. But I think this is a good fit.
No, I agree. I think out all the stars on it. I mean, obviously the return of AJ Styles we weren't expecting to see overall, and then this piece which they haven't teased me at all. LA Knight piece.
Because that's the only piece I have a problem with is that AJ Styles inserted himself in that feud, and now how does that fit? Like, I guess that's why I didn't want to lower the grade, because it does kind of leave you wanting to come back to watch next week so that you can figure out. I'm sure there's going to be a promo from AJ or some kind of backstage interview where he's going to explain why he did what he did or why he inserted himself in that particular match, right? Because he had no ties with anybody or no feuds with anybody.
Oh, I'm like, does he have a history with LA Knight? Like, I was thinking back, I'm like, I don't recall them having a feud or anything specific.
I mean, maybe there is. They'll let us know in the comments, that's for sure. But, I mean, I don't remember. But
exactly. Let us know. My memory's pretty good, but it's not that good.
I've had a few concussions in my day, so who knows? But I think that's the only thing that kind of threw me off. That's the only part that threw me off was like, where does he fit into all of this? Like, what's the end game with this one? Because now he's gonna turn into another roadblock for Randy Orton. It seems like, and I would hate for it to be a triple threat. I would love to see just Randy and Roman go at it because they'll put on a great show, great showing, great outing. But I don't know. Time will tell.
Well, unless they're gonna steer AJ into a program with LA Knight. Which I would presume it's like you just completely pivot off and you go do the LA Knight one. But I'm like, WWE loves to copy paste things so much that I half expect him to cut a promo in Japanese, and say, LA Knight, our careers are parallels. We're exactly alike. And I've decided that I have to destroy you. And I'm like, wait a second. You guys just recycled Shinsuke Nakamura's thing with Cody Rhodes.
Like, and enough of the
I half expect it to be like this. Yeah, it's like my story. I'm tired of my story, AJ Styles' story being undone. I'm gonna finish your story, LA Knight, and I'll be like, we've seen this somewhere before. WWE likes to reuse stuff, so they like to copy paste an awful lot. So we'll see if that happens. If I'm calling dibs on it. The other thing, too, that I got worried about, just as the recap for the whole week, obviously we got CM Punk in the Royal Rumble, which makes me feel like obviously he's going to win it. So bummer for Cody Rhodes. So what are the odds? So we'll take odds on this now. What are the odds that CM Punk wins the Men's Royal Rumble and that AJ Lee is the surprise entrant for the Women's Royal Rumble?
Oh, that's my prediction.
Like CM
my prediction is
AJ, well, no, but and she wins it.
Yeah, she's gonna win it because she'll be in at number 30. She'll be in at number 30.
Yeah,
she'll take the victory.
And so then you have CM Punk and AJ as the winners of both Royal Rumbles, and then they're like we're the first couple of pro wrestling, which I will hate that if that happens.
It would be. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, from their perspective, like we're the first couple of wrestling, like we came back and won both Rumbles, and then at WrestleMania they both win titles. Like, I would absolutely despise that. But I got this just awful feeling when I was like watching. I'm like, oh no, he's declaring, and he keeps name dropping her. Like he said April at one point, like where he was talking about something, and so I was like, oh, so he's brought her up like once a week, so. You have to expect that she will, and I know you had mentioned she'd probably come down for the Rumble, but I was like, I don't know if she.
I say she's in at number 30,
and
she's in at number 30. She wins, and as it pains me to say it, CM Punk will win the Rumble, and he will challenge Seth at WrestleMania. And I hope on all that is holy, he does not win that title, or that he does, and Damian Priest cashes in on him immediately, so we can just end that right then and there, and just. Be done.
Watch them like have him beat Seth Rollins, and then Damian Priest cashes it immediately, and then he beats Damian, and he's standing tall, and you're like,
on Damian Priest. Can you imagine that visual? Him trying to hit a GTS on Damian Priest.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, that this can only end badly. So we'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. But anyways, that's our show for this week. It was it was not a great Raw, but an awesome SmackDown to wrap up the week. I think that's all we got. I would say, what do we expect for next week? But they basically told us what all the matches were going to be, so we kind of know. But we'll see. We'll see about the resolution of some of these storylines. But that's all we got, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're catching us on YouTube, please hit that like, share, subscribe button, all the good things. Please leave your comments if you think that we're completely wrong about stuff, or just want to talk pro wrestling. Leave your comments in the comment section as well. And that's what we got this week. So we'll see you next time on the recap, and have a great evening.
See you guys.